When you walk through life, you encounter countless individuals who will either lift your spirit or drain your soul. The challenge is not in recognizing the obvious predators, those who announce their intentions with cruel words or violent actions. The real danger lies in those who wear masks of kindness while slowly poisoning your well of inner peace. These are the people who smile while they undermine you, who offer help while they sabotage your progress, who claim to love you while they systematically dismantle your self-worth. Understanding how to identify these toxic influences before they take root in your life is not just a skill, it is a necessity for psychological survival. The human psyche is remarkably sophisticated in its ability to detect threats, yet modern society has taught us to ignore our most primitive warning systems. We have been conditioned to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to explain away our discomfort as overthinking or paranoia. But what if that uncomfortable feeling in your stomach when certain people enter the room is not anxiety but wisdom? What if your reluctance to share personal information with specific individuals is not antisocial behavior but self-preservation? What if the exhaustion you feel after certain conversations is not weakness but recognition that your energy has been systematically depleted by someone who feeds on emotional chaos? Your nervous system responds to toxic people long before your conscious mind catches up. Pay attention to the physical sensations that arise when you are around certain individuals. Does your breathing become shallow? Do your shoulders tense up? Does your heart rate increase not from excitement but from an inexplicable sense of unease? These are not random bodily responses. They are sophisticated alarm systems that have evolved over millions of years to keep you safe from psychological predators. The problem is that we have learned to rationalize away these signals, to tell ourselves that we are being irrational or oversensitive. But sensitivity is not weakness. It is intelligence. Toxic people operate through a carefully orchestrated campaign of emotional manipulation that unfolds so gradually you barely notice it happening. They begin by studying your personality, your insecurities, your desires, and your fears. They present themselves as the solution to your problems, the person who truly understands you, the individual who can give you what you have been missing. In the initial stages, their attention feels intoxicating. They seem genuinely interested in your thoughts, your dreams, your past experiences. They validate your feelings and make you believe that you have finally found someone who sees your true value. This is not love. This is reconnaissance. Once they have mapped your emotional landscape, the real work begins. They start to introduce small doses of doubt into your daily interactions. They question your memory of conversations, insisting that you misunderstood what was said. They minimize your feelings, suggesting that you are overreacting to situations that any reasonable person would handle differently. They reframe your legitimate concerns as character flaws, turning your sensitivity into weakness, your boundaries into selfishness, your standards into unrealistic expectations. Each interaction chips away at your confidence in your own perception of reality, creating a psychological dependency that serves their need for control. The most insidious aspect of toxic behavior is how it disguises itself as care. The person who constantly criticizes your decisions will claim they are only trying to help you improve. The individual who isolates you from friends and family will insist they are protecting you from people who do not appreciate you. The one who monitors your activities and questions your motives will argue that their behavior stems from love and concern for your well-being. They position themselves as the victim of your unreasonable expectations while simultaneously positioning you as the source of all relationship problems. This reversal of reality is so skillfully executed that you begin to apologize for things you did not do and take responsibility for feelings that belong to someone else. Watch carefully how people respond to your success and happiness. Healthy individuals celebrate your achievements and encourage your growth even when it has nothing to do with their own advancement. Toxic people, however, cannot tolerate your joy without somehow diminishing it. They will point out potential problems with your good news, remind you of previous failures when you are experiencing victory, or shift the conversation to their own struggles when you are sharing positive developments. They are not capable of pure celebration because your light highlights the darkness they carry within themselves. The energy signature of a toxic person is unmistakable once you learn to recognize it. They leave you feeling emotionally drained, mentally confused, and spiritually depleted. After spending time with them, you find yourself questioning decisions you were confident about, doubting relationships that previously felt secure, and feeling guilty about things that should bring you joy. This is not coincidence. This is the residual effect of engaging with someone whose internal chaos seeks to create external disorder. Manipulation thrives in environments where clear communication is discouraged. Toxic individuals excel at creating confusion through mixed messages, inconsistent behavior, and emotional volatility. They will be warm and loving when they want something from you, cold and distant when you set boundaries, and explosively angry when you challenge their version of events. This unpredictability keeps you in a constant state of hypervigilance, always trying to read their mood and adjust your behavior accordingly. You become so focused on managing their emotional state that you lose touch with your own needs and desires. The most dangerous toxic people are those who present themselves as helpers, healers, or guides. They position themselves as more enlightened, more experienced, or more capable than you, creating an inherent power imbalance that they exploit for psychological dominance. They offer advice that sounds wise but consistently leads you away from your own inner knowing. They create problems that only they can solve, emergencies that require their immediate intervention, and crises that conveniently make you more dependent on their guidance. Their help always comes with strings attached, and those strings gradually weave themselves into a web of obligation and guilt. Consider how certain people affect your decision-making process. Healthy relationships encourage independent thinking and personal autonomy. You feel free to make choices based on your own values and priorities, knowing that you will be supported even if others disagree with your direction. Toxic relationships, however, create a climate where your decisions are constantly scrutinized, criticized, or undermined. You find yourself seeking approval for choices that should be entirely your own, hesitating to move forward without permission, and second-guessing your judgment even in areas where you have expertise and experience. The conversation patterns with toxic people follow predictable scripts that leave you feeling frustrated and unheard. They interrupt you mid-sentence, dismiss your concerns as invalid, and redirect every discussion back to their own experiences and opinions. When you try to address problematic behavior, they become defensive and turn the conversation into an attack on your character or mental state. They are master deflectors who never accept responsibility for their actions but always find a way to make you responsible for their reactions. After these conversations, you feel like you have been talking to a wall, except walls do not actively try to make you question your sanity. Pay attention to how people treat others when they think you are not watching. The way someone speaks to service workers, talks about absent friends, or handles minor inconveniences reveals far more about their character than their carefully crafted public persona. Toxic people often have different personalities for different audiences, adapting their behavior to extract maximum benefit from each relationship. They may be charming and charismatic in social settings while being cruel and controlling in private. This inconsistency is not versatility, it is manipulation. Your physical health often provides the clearest feedback about toxic relationships. Chronic stress from psychological manipulation manifests as headaches, digestive issues, sleep disturbances, and a compromised immune system. If you find yourself getting sick more frequently, feeling perpetually exhausted despite adequate rest, or experiencing unexplained anxiety and depression, consider whether these symptoms coincide with increased exposure to certain individuals. Your body keeps score of emotional abuse even when your mind tries to rationalize it away. The recovery process from toxic relationships requires rebuilding your connection to your own internal guidance system. Years of having your perceptions questioned and your feelings invalidated can leave you uncertain about your own judgment. You must practice trusting your instincts again, starting with small decisions and gradually working up to larger ones. Notice how different choices make you feel in your body. Does this person, place, or activity increase your energy or deplete it? Does this interaction leave you feeling more like yourself or less like yourself? These are not trivial questions. They are the foundation of psychological self-defense. Healthy boundaries are not walls that keep everyone out, they are filters that allow beneficial relationships to flourish while preventing harmful ones from taking root. Setting boundaries with toxic people often feels impossible because they refuse to respect any limits you establish. They interpret your boundaries as personal attacks, your need for space as rejection, and your standards as unreasonable demands. They will test every boundary you set, pushing against your limits until you either enforce them consistently or abandon them entirely. This is why boundary setting must be accompanied by boundary enforcement, even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. The most challenging toxic relationships are often with family members or long-term friends who have been in your life since childhood. These relationships come with a complex web of shared history, obligation, and emotional investment that makes them particularly difficult to address or distance yourself from. You may feel guilty for recognizing toxic patterns in someone you are supposed to love unconditionally, or worry that setting boundaries will destroy important family connections. But loyalty should not require you to sacrifice your mental health, and love does not demand that you tolerate abuse. Toxic people often surround themselves with enablers and flying monkeys, individuals who may not be toxic themselves but who unwittingly support toxic behavior by making excuses for it, minimizing its impact, or pressuring victims to maintain relationships that are harmful. These secondary characters in the toxic drama can be just as damaging as the primary perpetrator because they invalidate your experience and make you question whether the abuse is really as serious as it feels. Do not let other people's comfort with dysfunction determine your standards for healthy relationships. Recognize that toxic people rarely change because their behavior serves them well. They get their emotional needs met through manipulation and control, and they have no incentive to develop healthier relationship skills as long as their current methods continue to work. Waiting for them to recognize the harm they cause and voluntarily change their behavior is like waiting for a hurricane to develop a conscience. It simply is not going to happen. Your energy is better invested in protecting yourself and building relationships with people who are capable of genuine connection and mutual respect. The process of removing toxic people from your life often feels like grief because you are mourning not only the relationship that existed but also the relationship you hoped might develop. You may find yourself remembering the good times and wondering if you are being too harsh or unforgiving. This is normal and does not mean you should reconsider your decision. Toxic people are often capable of moments of genuine connection and kindness, but these positive experiences do not negate the overall pattern of harmful behavior. A few drops of clean water do not make a poisoned well safe to drink from. Building a life free from toxic influences requires developing a strong sense of your own identity and values. When you know who you are and what you stand for, it becomes much easier to recognize when someone is trying to change you into something that serves their purposes rather than your own growth. Invest time in understanding your own needs, preferences, and non-negotiables. Cultivate relationships with people who appreciate and support your authentic self rather than trying to reshape you into their ideal companion. Your intuition is your most sophisticated early warning system for detecting toxic people. It processes thousands of subtle cues that your conscious mind might miss, picking up on inconsistencies between words and actions, detecting insincerity in vocal tones, and recognizing familiar patterns from past harmful experiences. Learning to trust and act on your intuitive insights is one of the most important skills you can develop for protecting your psychological well-being. When something feels off, it usually is, even if you cannot immediately articulate why. The goal is not to become cynical or suspicious of everyone you meet, but to develop discernment that allows you to quickly identify people who are not capable of healthy relationships. This skill becomes more refined with experience and self-awareness. You begin to notice red flags earlier in the relationship development process, before significant emotional investment makes it harder to extract yourself from harmful dynamics. You learn to view someone's treatment of you as information about their character rather than evidence of your worth. Remember that protecting yourself from toxic people is not selfish, it is essential. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot help others heal if you are being systematically damaged by those around you. Creating space between yourself and toxic influences allows you to recover your strength, clarity, and confidence. From this restored state, you are better equipped to build meaningful relationships, pursue your goals, and contribute positively to the world around you. The journey toward psychological freedom begins with the recognition that you have the right to surround yourself with people who treat you with respect and kindness. You do not owe anyone access to your energy, your time, or your emotional space simply because they want it or because you have a shared history. Your life is precious, your peace is sacred, and your well-being is non-negotiable. Trust yourself to know the difference between people who add value to your existence and those who drain it away. Your future self will thank you for the courage to choose wisely.